Hello, world. Welcome to Queering Science, Theology, Philosophy, and Spirituality. This is the LGBTQ Center um, for Science, Theology, Philosophy, and Spirituality, QSTPS. And we are gonna have we are starting a new series called Suicide in Science, Theology, and Philosophy. And we are gonna do this because, based on an experience I had this week, um, we went to Barry, a friend of ours at the LGBTQ affirming church, who allegedly committed suicide. And I rarely attend funerals for very many reasons, but for this one I attended, and it's because actually, in even before I knew it was a suicide, I will also talked about. I've already talked about my attempted suicide, and that was due to the medications I was taking when I was unwell in 2015. And of course, the medicines are very clear. When you read the side effects of the medication, one of them, it makes you psychotic, and another thing, it makes you think of suicide and, if possible, even commit suicide. So that's what people need to understand about suicidal thoughts. Now, especially the science part. That's why we're doing this video. It's titled Looking at Suicide in Science, Looking at Suicide in Theology, and Looking at Suicide in Philosophy. So we're going to cover suicide in all of those areas, and historically and futuristically where we're going. And so when I went for the funeral, I was looking around and listening to everybody talking, and it was very interesting because, especially when it came to the theological part, very many people had mixed views. And being Christian, he was a Christian, and many people were really not happy because they don't understand. They didn't understand what happens to a Christian who commits suicide. That was the big question. And I was so happy for that because it made me think about it. And for the first time, I got a very positive answer. And the answer I got was, the person still goes to heaven or is with God. And so people found, like, I have not told many people about my views. And so this video its purpose is also to give people my views of what I think happens to a Christian who commits suicide, or not a Christian, everybody. And so my friend was like, people around me were telling me, like, this guy's, I mean, when somebody commits suicide, he's going to hell. And I was like, because I'm already in the no hell movement, which is with Bishop Carlton Pearson, which is Come Monday. The movie Come Sunday is about Bishop Carlton Pearson, and then when he got a new revelation that he's going to start the Come Monday movement. And the Come Monday movement is a movement of religious people who combine science and religion, and are not bound by the religious writings, but they are also bound by science. And that is what people need to understand about the where the world is right now. It's a very transitional, is chaos. It's a transitional chaos completely. You may not see chaos. It's not a physical chaos in the world. It is transitional. I mean, it's a spiritual or virtual chaos. Now, what do I mean by that? Technology has changed um, religion, understanding of religion. And you see, the moment it has changed your understanding of religion, it is going to change your perspective of life, your perspective of the future, your perspective of the past, your perspective of the present. Do you know why there's a lot of revisionism happening in history? It is because um, people have acquired new knowledge. That is what has happened. Secondly, people are discussing knowledge. That is the reason why there is changes in viewpoints. You see, people revise history because they want to really understand if something happened. And then secondly, the reason why revisionism is very common in science and in history and in academics is because we were not there when those things happened. So people tend to revise history. Now, of course, some revisionism is very weak and pathetic, and very, what do you call it? It's malevolent. It's not, or malicious. Like when people, what happened in Iran. Iran opposed the. Iran believed the Holocaust never happened. That was a very wrong revisionism, because it's a fact. Auschwitz is there, you know. All the concentration camps where Jews and gay people were put are there. I remember watching very many talk shows where they showed Jews who had their numbers, they were numbered, their concentration number. So, and the woman, she was a very old woman, and you can even see she doesn't want to rub it. That's an evidence. Yes. Of course, some people who attack Jews, anti-Semitism is still there. They will say, leave her alone. She has her own, she could have even written, you know. But there's so much evidence to show that it happened. The Nuremberg trials, the evidence is there, the records are there. And very many people who saw the Holocaust are still alive. So that revisionism is not good. So there are many revisionists, especially the more recent a revision is, the more you should smell a rat from it, but you smell a rat, but don't attack it, because revision happens to really confirm whether that thing is true. And I'm not attacking any revision, even of Nazi Germany. What I'm just trying to say, there are some revisions that will be so weak, like the one of the Nazi Germany. It's a fact. There are people who and went through that. Israel, the presence of Israel, is a fact that there was Nazi persecution. So that one is not an issue. However, other revisions happen. In the best way to understand the world is to understand the court system. Now, in the court system, you have a system called revision. There is a process called revision. You see, why do you have to understand the court system? You have to understand the court system because, number one, it is the place of truth. To find out the truth, what happened, or to somebody or to something. And this is why even theology has Judgment Day. It is meaning there'll be a day people will go to court. That's what they believe. Of course, now, because there's no hell, why is there a Judgment Day? So that's going to be another discussion. So we're also going to have, as I said in the other video, we're going to have a playlist where there is no hell, there is no judgment. We will just go to another world. Yes, that's what I'm going to. We'll have that video and we will share it. But let's come to those who believe there's a Judgment Day. Yes, those are theists, because atheists don't believe in Judgment Day. Yes, there is no God, so who is going to judge? But if you believe in God, there are some who believe in God and believe God will judge. Others believe in God, but they don't believe God will judge. That's what I'm trying to say. That's now the new philosophical and theological thinking. So, for those who believe that there's judgment day, I'm beginning to draw a philosophical blueprint or the philosophical architecture of such people that believe there'll be a judgment day. People who believe in judgment day tend to be reverse Platonics or reverse students of Plato, because Plato taught philosophy in his philosophy books that what is in heaven is on earth, and therefore, and Plato's thinking was that what you think is what you will produce. That's why even Solomon was also a bit Platonic, because he said, you are what you think. If you think you are powerful, you will be powerful. If you think you are worthless, you will be worthless. That is Platonic thinking. Platonic thinking is that the internal or the inner person is the controller of the external world. But Plato has been disputed, or he has there's a counter philosophy to Plato, and that is the Aristotelian one, whereby you don't have to think to create, because there are things that have existed without you thinking. You see, you didn't think to see stones. Yeah, stones exist, but what happens is you see a stone. The moment you've seen a stone, you record it in your mind. That's Aristotelian thinking. So Aristotle is more scientific. Plato is more of a spiritual person. He's more of a religious person. Aristotle is more of a scientist. So for Aristotle, we learn by observation. We don't learn by inspiration. That is what Plato does. So there's now, but the Platonics are now doing reverse. That's my view as an amateur philosopher. There is a reverse Platonism. Reverse Platonism means what is on earth is in heaven. So that is what, and Jesus also taught reverse Platonism. Yes, Jesus taught reverse Platonism because Jesus said that whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. So what does that mean? That whatever you do on earth has an effect in heaven. You know, if it was not reverse Platonism, it would have been whatever you do in heaven will be done on earth. Whatever you lose in heaven would be loosed on earth. So what does that mean? Heaven, when you do direct Platonism, it means heaven is more powerful than earth. But if you do reverse Platonism, then earth is more powerful than heaven. So because Jesus said, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatever you lose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. So he was trying to show human beings that you have power over the heaven. And I was laughing when a friend of mine posted that Nigerians, when they pray, they are so demanding. You know, they're telling God, I want this, I want this. Yes, it is because of that thinking. They are binding on earth so that it's like arm twisting God. Yes, you're telling God, do this for me. I want a car. Bring it now. Now. You know, the Pentecostal movement has that demanding prayer, of which Jesus also approved of it through the persistent widow. He said, this woman went and told the judge, plead my case, judge my case. She kept on doing it, kept on, until the judge said, I'm going to do it. And remember, the story is that the judge did not even fear God. So he was an atheist. But he answered the lady because of her persistence. So that's what Jesus was saying. When you pray, always persist. Pray, pray, always ask for that thing you want. You will get it, no matter how long it is. That's what Jesus was talking. He was teaching about prayer. And the same as binding. Binding is prayer, and losing is prayer. Binding is arresting. So what happens is, the reverse Platonism is that be very aggressive on earth, and you will cause aggression in heaven, and then you get what you want. That is reverse Platonism. Now, why have I gone to all of that reverse Platonism? And it's to show you the understanding about the whole world and thinking. So Aristotle tells you to observe the world. Plato tells you to think, then you create. I tend to be a mix of both Plato and Aristotle. And I'm going to discuss this in the artificial intelligence theology. I'm going to discuss. Okay, so in this suicide, so people who believe there is judgment, back to what we're saying. Now, we have already discussed, I've told you reverse Platonism and Platonism. People who believe there is judgment day, why do they think like that? It's because they were born in a world where there was a court system. Yes, there was a court system. So when they saw the court system, now let's go and let's be Aristotle. You are born, you go to school, then you are taught that there is a place called court and they judge people. It goes to your brain. Then you become a religious person. So you create an idea that when people die, they go to court, to a heavenly court. They are done judgment. This is what happened with the SDA church. The SDA church, when you read the Theology of Judgment, it's very interesting. They have what you call investigative judgment. It's so beautiful to read philosophy and theology, because the thinking that people have, they create very many abstract concepts. So the SDAs have what you call investigative judgment, and they believe it began in 1844. After, when Miller had said Jesus is coming back, and he didn't come back, Ellen White was a disciple of Miller. So she said that, she wrote actually, that even though Jesus didn't come on that date Miller had said, that day when Jesus was supposed to come, investigative judgment began. So whoever died, and in SDA theology, also death is not death, it is sleep. They say you just go to sleep. Soul sleeping. So when you are sleeping, and which we'll also discuss in our death series, which is also going on. So when you are sleeping, then investigative judgment begins. But I think I'm going to read back the SDA theology, and I'll come and discuss it more, but not here on the death series. So what she said, because I'm trying to find out whether you go, and then after that you go and do what, whether living people are judged. I'm going to find that out. So, but basically, investigative judgment. Now, why am I bringing that term investigative judgment? Do you know why? In the 19th century, when the SDA church began, it was the same time the police system was established. Before the police system, people never understood investigation. Even the word itself was not a very common term, because there was no police. Countries were protected by the military. Yes. Even the Roman Empire, it had a police system, but it was not run by policemen. It was run by the military men. They were the ones who used to walk. Centurions. A centurion was in charge of 100 men. And then you have a legionary. He was in charge of 1,000, if I'm not wrong. I have to go and remind myself of Latin. So that's why you remember the man who had many demons. What was he called? He said, "Who are you?" They said, "We are legion. We are many." So that's how when Jesus had to cast out the demons, they went to pigs, and the pigs went to the sea. Yes. So they called themselves legion. And remember that time the Romans had a legion. The army or the police force was divided into legions. It was divided into centurions, 100 men, 1,000 men. Romans were very mathematical in their arrangement of the system. So so what happened? What am I trying to say? So the police system became very strong in the world, in England, in the 19th century. So these words were now being played around: investigation, police, then we create a constable, then we create all of these titles. That's how it came about. And that's why Ellen White was not a stupid woman. She read. So she even coined the word investigative judgment. Very interesting. The philosophers and theologians of the 19th century, to me, are my best century in the world is the 19th century. I don't know what those guys were eating. They were out of this world. All of them, be they theologians, philosophers, or scientists, they were out of this world. And I think we're going to do a series whereby we'll go century by century, looking at the scientists, looking at the philosophers, looking at the spiritualists, and looking at the theologians of each century. Every century has its set of scientists, theologians, spiritualists, and scientists, theologians, philosophers, and spiritualists. So we're going to look at them. Like now, as I've told you, in the 21st century, we have Bishop Carlton Pearson. He is the 21st century theologian to watch. Secondly, we have the another guy I'm reading now, Bat Emran. Yes, Emram. I find it very hard to pronounce his second name. So Bat, he's also a very important theologian. And a very important scientist to study is today, in the 21st century, is Bill deGrasse Tyson. And another one, all of these scientists of the age, we are going to be watching what they say, and the philosophers of our age and theologians. Of course, everybody's a theologian, but there are these theologians that are really great. They know how to provoke. Like now, what we are doing, I'm provoking theologians to think about suicide, and that's what we're going to be doing. So this is just an introduction for the thing we're going to do about suicide, and you've seen how I've gone through it. I've just touched a bit. And just to tell you, we will look at Judas. Where did Judas go? Did he really go to? And even if he went to hell, the Bible says Jesus went to hell to preach to the dead, which includes Judas. And it says all those people came out of hell. So Judas is in heaven. So we're going to discuss that and show people that suicide is not sin. Then in the second part, we're going to discuss in the second series of the suicide in theology, in science, theology, and philosophy. We're going to look at why do people commit suicide, the scientific reasons, One of the reasons why people commit suicide is mental disorder. And as I told you, what's happening in Kenya, a very good, the great, I mean, he was the former Chief Justice of Kenya, and he's challenging the legal fraternity and the government to relook on attempted suicide and suicide, to remove them from the penal code, because they really don't, it doesn't make sense to arrest somebody who is mentally unwell, to charge him. Why are you charging a mentally unwell person? Because a sane person, what should be said, sane people don't commit suicide. Yes, sane people. However, it's a very good discussion because there are some people who commit crime because out of malevolence. No, even if you commit crime out of malevolence, if you commit suicide, you're not normal. Yes, because like look at the terrorists. They commit suicide. They commit suicide, and they kill people. So, why? Because they have a mental disposition that I'm going to go to heaven because of this suicide. You see, it's the thinking. And that's why even psychiatrists are discussing religious fundamentalism, whether to include it as a disorder. And they will. It should be. Because the reason why we have homophobia, transphobia, all of these things, it is because of religious fundamentalism that has affected very many people, because most of the world is religious. Do you know most of the world is theist? Yes. Very few people in the world are atheists. 33% of the world is Christian. 28% of the world is Muslim. That is already 61% of the world is religious. So what does that mean? Less than 50% are atheists in the world. So what does that mean? It means that the chances of homophobia and transphobia are very high because there are very many theists. And when you're a theist, the temptation to be a homophobe is high because you belong to a religion, especially if you belong to a religion that attacks homosexuals. Yes, you will become homophobic if you are not conscious. You see, if you are not conscious about science, you see why we are really bringing, we even had to change the title of our center to begin with science, because that's what we go by. We don't go by theology first. Science. Because God is science. God is the truth. So if God is the truth, then when you see homosexuals having sex and really having fun, you are a mad person to declare those people are bad. You are mad. People are really making love. They are enjoying themselves. And then you call that sin, or you call it a crime, and they're having fun. Scientifically, when you open their brain, dopamine is released. You see? It's madness. And it's madness perpetuated by religion. So what we are trying to do, we're also going to have another playlist, Reform Religion. I was so happy to hear the president of Egypt declare it in front of Macron, the president of France, that they will have to reform religion. It's brilliant. That's the way. That is the way for the Arab world. Otherwise, otherwise, if the Arab Muslim world does not reform, it's going to have crisis. Let me tell you, all religions are going through, especially religions that don't stand in science. They are going through reform. They are going through reform. Everything has to be discussed, and I'm not singling myself out that I'm okay. I am even part of the process because I ate a lot of religion that confused me. You see? So it I am also, when I'm doing this study, I'm also dealing with myself. So we're going to look at suicide in science, and as I've told you, uh, basically nobody can commit suicide even if he has a malicious agenda. And that's another thing about crime. Why do people commit crime? Do they commit it because, does a criminal do it because, are you a criminal because of a mental disorder? It could be. Yes. Why do you have psychiatrists in the courtroom and psychologists, but mostly psychiatrists? It's because they need to assess the mental state of the person who committed the crime. And now it's becoming more psychological because not only do people commit these crimes because of emotional rage, yes, they also commit it because of psychological stress. Like most thieves commit theft because they really want money. Yeah. So a country that wants to solve that issue, give them money. It's as simple as that. If somebody wants to be, humans like money. It's a fact. So what I'm trying to say is study what humans like. Then if you want to reduce that crime, give them. Like in Africa, we have corruption. The reason why there's corruption is poverty. People are poor. And now they are living in a world where you can get everything in a minute. Yes, in a minute you can become a millionaire when you have a job that has access to big money. So people still, let me tell you, some of these people who have been caught in corruption and they are not charged because you need evidence to charge them. Do they go back and steal? They don't. They have already got the money. Some of them are so clever, they even get businesses. So they're even getting money. So they have solved their problem. Their problem was they wanted money. Oh, you solved their problem. So money is a problem. And meanwhile, like people have been discussing in Kenya about corruption cases. Why is it that the small fish or the big ones are not arrested or convicted, but the small ones are convicted? It's as easy as ABCD. A small person, when he steals, he doesn't even plan. He's really stealing. You see, what Jesus said about war, a king should always sit down and study war. You know, war is a combination of destruction and theft. Even in the Bible, the kingdom of Israel stole from many countries because that's part of war. They even stole humans. Slaves are property. We are all assets. Yeah, we are all assets. You see, the problem of slavery is that you don't pay the person. You're supposed to pay him. That is the problem of slavery is not that you're using a person. The problem of slavery is you don't pay them for the work they are doing. That is the problem of slavery. That's why even in Africa, when you marry a woman in the heterosexual community, they pay dowry. It is because the woman she's going to do something in the home. Yes, she's valuable. So she's going to give people children, the man children. So they pay dowry. You can never get a girl in the African traditional culture. You can never get a girl without paying. That's slavery. That's slavery. So you pay. Meaning we are all property. You see, the problem people have with the dowry system, it's that it's seen in the patriarchal lens, and they feel, and then it's also because the patriarchal system, most of the patriarchal system in the world is heterosexual. So the woman is property, not the man. The man is not property. But in a matriarchal system, the man is property. Yeah. Because, like in India, the girls, when they have wedding, they pay dowry for the man. They pay. And we're going to discuss that one time when we talk about dowry. So what does that mean? The man is property. So if a woman can be property, a man can also be property. That's why they are male and female sex workers. Yes, that's why they're there. Because they are valuable. So we are all assets. There's nothing wrong being an asset. There's nothing wrong you being property. It's okay. What is wrong is when somebody uses you to do work or to gain money and they don't pay you for that, then that is slavery, and that should be condemned. But I'm telling you what kings do. Kings, when they go to war, they steal. Yeah, they steal people, they steal cows. You saw what happened in Israel. Sometimes they were told, kill all the people, but steal their property. Other times they were told, go with everybody, come with them. And not only Israel, Babylon. Oh my goodness, those guys were just stealing left, right, and center. And sometimes it was up to them. Sometimes they were so angry, they don't steal, they even kill. Babies were being thrown down from the high buildings. They find a baby. Remember when you read Jeremiah's book of the Lamentations, the children of the women of Ramah are weeping. Weeping. You read those scriptures again with understanding. And read the scriptures with a movie. Because very soon we even want a audio-visual Bible, whereby you read scriptures as a movie. One day we'll have a movie Bible. All the stories in the Bible. Don't change the script like what Hollywood does. Just do them as the Bible is written and watch. You will cry. You will cry. When you read Lamentation, the women of Ramah, they are weeping. Rachel is weeping. The children have been thrown from the high places. That's what Babylon did when it invaded Israel. They threw babies down. Even Jesus warned Israel that when Jerusalem is attacked, and it was attacked in AD 70, when Jerusalem was attacked in AD 70, when Jerusalem was attacked in AD 70, Jesus warned that better a woman be not pregnant, or she better not have a baby that is sucking, because if she does, she will cry. She will regret why she was born. And guess what? Suicide happened in that time. Mass suicide of Masada. It happened. People killed themselves. It was that bad. That invasion of Jerusalem. That bad. Rome just decided we are finishing Israel. And it happened. So we're going to be discussing those things. Now, next we're also going to be discussing suicide, the different types of suicides in religious texts and in philosophy, and why they happened. And then we will now conclude with the understanding that if suicide is a mental disorder, yeah, it's a mental disorder, then how do we deal with it? Yeah, if suicide is a mental disorder, how do we deal with it theologically? Theologically, they are not sinners. Yeah, absolutely. Like my friend who died, I was peaceful because I knew this is a person. People don't even know why he committed suicide. It could be he has really worked hard for his family. Because when I heard the people reading the eulogy of him, and I saw the family, I said this man was great. He was a leader, a gay man. I said this guy, there is not. He is in heaven. If there is a heaven for the theists, yes. I speak like that because this center also has atheists. So I allow atheists to be part of the center. As a theist, I'm a theist because I told you what I have in my life. I can sense power. I got the Holy Spirit power, what is called Holy Spirit. So I know I am a theist. But I was an atheist before. The only thing that did make me so strong in atheism was that power I used to sense and speaking in tongues and how I spoke in tongues. That's what changed me. But the rest, I was atheist because I couldn't understand. But I now understand why people can be atheists. You even can't, because even theists can't explain God. Yeah, I can't explain to you why I got even that speaking in tongues and those what I got. I really can't. There's no words. There's no words. And that's why we're even going to have another series about power. You know, power has no language. It's just power. Do you know you have power to kill somebody without even having the intent to do it? That's what happened in war. Obama's drones bombed a hospital because the hospital on the radar they were showing that there's fire coming from this area. And you know these drones are controlled, remote control. So the control center for the drone is not in the country that is in war, it's in America. So when they read on the radar, the screen, there is something happening there. The drone directly goes to that place. It was actually artificial stupidity that led to the bombing of the hospital. So the drones released the bombs. Yeah, they released bombs. And within a short time, they found out. Then when they found out it was bombed, it was a hospital, a Western hospital. You see? So that's what. But the game was the terrorists went to the hospital. And the alert system in America was shown that they are there. That's where they are. So the drone automatically it's fed the information that the gunfire is here. It goes and then drops the bomb. Doesn't care what it's dropping on. Next thing you know, you've killed people. Innocent. And of course, Obama said sorry, but people could not understand. Yes, they couldn't. It was so sad. But he said it. And the good thing, apologize and move on. Yeah, and this is what people need to understand about technology and war. Just because there's technology doesn't mean there's perfection. Yes, there will be very many problems. I've already told people in Rex Arthur that my other channel, I call it a secular channel, but it's not even secular. It's just that we focus on secular things there. I told people that even the biometric system that people fear and don't like, it has its issues. It will have its problems because that is the nature of man's creation. You know, and for information, don't think that the creation, natural creation, or the things that man didn't create don't have problems. They do have problems. Okay, let's conclude this video. It's just an introduction. So suicide is going to be, we're going to discuss it in theology, how many suicides happened in the Bible, and what happens when people go to when they commit suicide, and um, then we will conclude with the way forward on how to deal with suicidal issues in the science field, that is in the secular world, like in courtroom, and in the law. And then we are going to discuss how to deal with suicide in theology. I've already told you my stand is it's not a sin, and even if you call it a sin, you won't be punished because of what Jesus Christ did on the cross. So it's an understanding of theology. Yeah, people need to understand that the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, especially for Christians, if you're a Christian, was the highest sacrifice ever. There is no sin that can beat that sacrifice. Yeah. That's why I'm not an evangelical. Evangelicals believe you must get saved to be part of the sacrifice. I don't believe that. I believe Jesus died for all people. All. Even those who don't want it. Because if Jesus didn't die for all, then Thomas should have died the day he denied Jesus. He denied him. But did Jesus attack him? No. He protected him. He told him, well, you've seen, I'm real. I died. But you are less blessed. These others are blessed because they believed and they didn't see. But you wanted to see. But you see, for me, I like Thomas because that was his goal was not even blessing. His goal was, if you really resurrected, come and show me. That's what he wanted. That's all. And he got it. So Thomas is okay. And look where he went. He went to India. That's where he finished his life. So anyway, so we're going to look at suicide in theology and the way forward, how to deal with it, how churches right now can deal with suicide cases. Because like that family, it has a history of suicide. Yeah. And people need to understand, and by this, suicide is very rampant in the world. Russia, I was going through the list of countries where people commit suicide. Russia is number one, number two. That's a very important thing to understand. Why is Russia like that? So you can sometimes study the mental health of those countries that have high suicide rates. Yeah. Russia is the same country that's homophobic and transphobic. So it could be countries where there's a lot of homophobia, a lot of transphobia, there are high rates of suicide. That's why I'm enjoying life these days, because knowledge is becoming, we are understanding the problems we have in the world and we are solving them. Then we're also going to look at suicide in philosophy. You know, in philosophy, you are free. Some people advocate for suicide. Yeah, in philosophy. Socrates committed suicide. He drank hemlock. He did it. The number of mass suicides in the history of man, unbelievable. And we're going to go through this when we are going on in the series. And then we are going to look also at suicide. So suicide in science, theology, and philosophy. Spirituality, of course, lies in theology. It's not, but very soon we are also going to explain spirituality, because spirituality just means personality. Another playlist coming up is God, we are gods. Yes, that is going to be another playlist, because Psalms 82 verse 6 is very clear. We are all gods. Now, if we are all gods, and why this is the verse, Psalms 82 is based on Genesis chapter 1 that says we were created in the image of God. The picture of God. When you see me, you're seeing God. Yeah, God is diverse because we are diverse. That's why God is male and female. He's everything. Then we are also everything. And how are we everything? A white person is connected to me, and an Asian is connected to me through blood and through ancestor, because we all share one common ancestor. So the white person is my brother, whether I like it or not, because we share one ancestor. Asians are my brothers and sisters because we share one ancestor. When you put us together, we are all one family. All. Eh, all. All. We are all connected. We are one family because we have one ancestor. So, the diversity is just a difference, but it cannot cancel, diversity cannot cancel the one sistership. That's what you need to understand. Even if you look different, even if you look like a chimpanzee, you look like an animal, you know, it means nothing. We all have one ancestor, all of us. It is proven by science. And so, what am I trying to say? Diversity cannot cancel universalism or singularity. It can't. You see, gay men are connected to straight men. They are not, you can't separate them. They are all men. Lesbian women are connected to bisexual women. Yes, you can't separate them. Do you know why the rainbow is the rainbow? It's because it is one light. White light has 7 shades of color. Main, 7 shades of color. You cannot separate. Okay, you can separate colors. That's why there are some stars which are red, some stars which are blue, some stars which are purple, some stars which are a mix of purple and green. Go and look at the colors. The walk in this around in the sky at night. Look at the stars. Not all of them look the same. And look at the moon. Sometimes the moon is red. Sometimes the moon is blue. Sometimes it's yellow. Sometimes it's white. You see, all of those colors, they change. Yet light is one. It's one color with many shades. So the one color of light is universalism. Uni. One. Uni. Uno. Then uno can be divided into parts, and that's called diversity. This world is divided into parts. One planet called Earth has very many parts, and all of those parts are diverse. Africa is not Europe because it is in a different location. So that's what you need to understand. But Africa and Europe are in one world. A black person is not a white person because of the shade of skin, color. But they are one people because they have one ancestor. They have one ancestor. It's beautiful. So we're going to discuss that. Okay.